Hello, welcome to the nest. I'm Leanne and I'm so excited that you're here today. Today I'm going to share a book with you called Pockets of Possibilities. It's a sweet little book based on this flowery one that I made several years ago. Today I'm going to show you a variation of the one on the right. If you want a list of supplies, you can find that at birdnestbooks.com. I'll have a link down below. So like I say, I started out with this book. This is a book that I made probably 7 years ago. I put on the flowers there. I have just loved this book. It's made with simple white envelopes. It's just a precious little book. See, there's those envelopes right there, and I used washi tape on them, and I put little pockets. This is my little prayer journal. I had little tits and tats and things in there. This is a new variation that I'm making that I'm going to show you. Instead of using the white envelopes, I used simple scrapbook paper, and I'm going to show you how to make these envelopes, but I'll show you also how to make the little plain simple white envelopes if you're interested in doing that. This is sweet because of the envelopes and the things that you can tuck in it. See that? It's just a precious, precious little book, and I call it Pockets of Possibilities because you can use it in so many different ways. This one I'm going to use as a prayer journal. I'm going to put like verses in there, people I'm praying for, things I'm praying about, but you can also use it to put like affirmations in there. You can put little notes of what I love about you. These are the three components that I have in every pocket. Everyone's a little bit different, but these are the basic three components, and I'll go over that with you when we make the book. So let's get into the cover. This is the first thing that we're going to make. We're going to make this first because we're going to want to press it. You're going to use chipboard. This is the board that I use, and I'll show you how to cut it. You can get it at your local hobby shop. They have it at Hobby Lobby. They have it individually that you can buy it at Michael's and Joann Fabrics, but you can also buy cinch board like this. It doesn't have to be used as cinch machine. You can use it regularly. If you want, though, you can use plain old cardboard from your boxes. Just put several layers of it together, cut it the same size, thicken it up though so it has some body to it. But I'm using this press board. When you're using press board, you want to cut it on something that's nice and firm. This is a cutting mat that I had from my quilting days, and I'm going to use that to cut it. I also use this Tim Holtz ruler. I like this one because it has a steel edge to it, so that when you have the blade next to it, it glides nicely. You want something to cut it with, you can use a rotary cutter. I'm going to use this. This is a knife, I think made by Olaf. And it's wonderful because see those little pieces, they can break off once it gets dull, and so you have like a new knife every time. So what I like to do, I like to measure off what I'm cutting. So right now we're going to cut a piece 5 by 7, and you're actually going to want 2 of them. So go ahead and mark it and then drag your pencil down it, and that's going to be your guide for your cutting line. I like to check just to make sure that I actually traced a line at the proper place, because you don't want to find out later that you did it on the wrong spot. Line up your blade and your ruler right up against each other, and then you can start your nice smooth cut. Now smoothly, and right there I realized I had the ruler up a little bit. The ruler is the same length as my paper, so I really want to have them at the same places, and so I had to realign it up, make sure I was in the right spot, and start again. So just nice smooth lines. You don't want to go heavy-handed. You just glide along. It does take several whip throughs or whatever you want to call it. You need to go through it several times before it's actually cut, and that's okay. Now you can cut this on like your cutting board with your sliding blade, your Fisker cutting board. It does really dull the blade. Now, I do that sometimes, but just know it does dull your blade. This works great. You just have to have a little bit of patience, as you can see, but once you're there, it just comes apart nicely like that. So now rotate it and get that next measurement. You want the 7 inches on this side, and we're going to go through the same thing. I sped it up here because you don't want to watch paint dry, but I want you to see once again just the process, just to remind you. Lining it up and then going nice smooth slices through your piece, and then it comes right off. Cuts like a butter. Okay, you can move that away. This second piece is a little bit easier because you can use your first piece as a guide. Just go right up next to it, line it, cut it, and you're good. Okay, now with your 2 pieces of chipboard, we're going to be adding paper to these for your cover. So there they are, nice 7 by 5. So your paper, you've got a 5 by 7 piece, but you're actually going to cut your paper 7 by 9 because you want a 1-inch edge around your paper like that. See that? So that you have something that you can pull the edges over to glue on the opposite side. Now, you can use your paper. I'm going to do a prayer journal, and so what I'm going to use is simple old pages from the hymnal. I went over to the thrift shop. I got this for $3.29. I got it from Goodwill, and I'm going to use that for my covers. Works perfectly fine, so why not? So the music block of this is just almost the exact same size as my book cover, 5 by 7, and so I'm just kind of positioning it, just kind of getting an idea where I want to lay it, and then go ahead and put the glue on. You want the glue right along your edges. Now you don't need a ton of glue. It comes out nicely out of this bottle, so you get a nice thin line, and just kind of place it all around. Some people like using a brush because then you don't get those lines. Some papers, it really makes a difference. This one, not so much, so I didn't mind it. So once you have that and it's had a little chance to dry, we're going to work on the edges. I lightly fold these edges just so it gives it a little paper memory, if you will, for when I'm going to fold it. So at this point, we're going to cut the edges off. Some people cut it straight across. I like kind of angling a little bit because I find if I cut it straight across, my angle isn't great. And then I don't have enough room. So I kind of create almost like a U-type shape. So you're going to pull it in and see if you've got nice corners. If you like the corners it creates, boom, you are ready to go. So I think I like mine, so I'm going to start gluing it up. I put a bead of glue right on the inside edge and then right on the outside edge, and then I pull my paper over. This book, this paper of the hymnal, it really glues well. It gets, the glue grabs it nicely. Some papers don't do that, or there's a stiffness to them. They fight with you, so you have to really work it. But not this one. It really works nicely. So I'm giving this one a trial run. It works out nicely. So once again, putting the bead on. So the glue really, you know, I don't know what type of glue that you like to use. I used to use Scotch all the time, and now I use the Art Glitter Glue. I love this glue. It lasts forever for me. Now, if I'm doing big places, sometimes I still like using the Scotch, but this really is my go-to glue. It glues up nicely. So at this point, we want to add paper to the cover. This area here is going to be the inside of the book. The book is 5 inches, but I want a little teeny tiny edge. So I'm going to cut my paper 4 3/4, and the length I'm going to cut 6 3/4. So just a little bit shy of the edges, and then it should be just fine to glue on. I'm picking the side that I want. Boom. I like the other side better, so I'm going to put glue on this side. Putting glue right up to the edges again, and then just kind of scribbling it a little bit on the main area. Now, if you're using a really heavy or really wet glue, you might find that it does show through and your paper bubbles a little. So you just want to be aware of that as you go along. Now, the next thing I'm going to use this Distress ink. It's a vintage page, and it just kind of gives a nice dimension to the edges if you've never done it before. So the ink here, I will tell you, it is different than your standard ink. Like if you have some of the standard ink from scrapbooking or whatever, you can use that. It just does not move the same as this. This one just makes a nice kind of buffered type edge. Our covers are ready, and now what we want to do, we want to take them and press them for the night. If you have a book, put them under a heavy book or two. What you might want to do is put a piece of wax paper right here, just to show you I'm putting a piece of chipboard in between. And the reason that you want that wax paper in there is because if there's any glue seepage, you don't want it seeping onto your cover and ruining your cover. You want it to press a couple hours, but overnight is even better, so feel good to do that. While it's drying, you can check out my link below to my website. It'll tell you all the different supplies that we're going to be using in this project. Next, we'll be working a little bit more on the cover and then on the pockets. I'll see you then.